Hi everyone, I'm Nama, also Peculiaris, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about this project, August Chills. So the inspiration comes from a Japanese tradition of telling ghost stories in summer. The idea being that the chills you get from the stories will cool you down. And I love this idea, and I love ghost stories. So I decided to make a series of mixed media works, each inspired by a different ghost story. It's going to run through August, and because the stories themselves are so central to the work, I'm going to share them as well. So basically, you're going to get every week a video of the making process of the work while I tell you a ghost story. Yay! And there's an extra yay. These works are going to be available as limited edition art prints in the end, and I'm going to give away 3 of them. The giveaway is going to be here in YouTube and also in my Instagram and my Facebook. You can find the details below in the description and also in my website, peculiaris.art. So the stories that I picked are each from a different place in the world, and today we start with a Japanese story in honor of the culture that inspired all this. And 2 little disclaimers before we get to the story itself. One, it's a very famous story and there's a lot of versions to it. I couldn't find sort of definitive text in English, so I combined a few. I hope you like the results. Second disclaimer, the screams included in the video are not my own. That said, I invite you to dim the lights, snuggle in, and join me for first make and story, Ghost in the Well, also known as House of Plates, Sara-yashiki. There was a beautiful young woman named Okiku who worked as a servant at a samurai household. The lord of the house was called Aoyama Tessan, and he was captivated by Okiku's beauty. He approached her many times, professing love and asking that she becomes his lover. But Okiku refused him again and again. Finally, determined to win her one way or another, Aoyama devised a plan. The family owned a set of 10 plates of precious Chinese porcelain. Okiku was responsible for their upkeep and did so with great care. Aoyama hid one of the plates where she could not find it and waited. A few days later, it was time to clean the plates again. Okiku carefully took each out of the storage box, counting as she gently wiped any trace of dust. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Her hand touched the bottom of the box. Nothing. Her fingers scraped the wood. Nothing. Agitated, she looked in the box. Nothing. Missing? Gasped Okiku. But they were all there when I locked the box. She turned to the plates she had just cleaned. She must have miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It must be there. Again she counted, and again, each time becoming more frantic. The loss of something so precious could cost her not only her job, but her life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Finally, in tears, she went to Aoyama confessing the loss. I don't know how it happened, sir. I must have mistakenly left one out of the box when I cleaned them last. I was sure I put them all back in, she sobbed. There, there. Aoyama tried to hold back the smile at seeing his plan succeed. I am sure you didn't mean to lose such a precious object. Okiku let out a whimper. However, he continued, I cannot just ignore the loss. These plates are very important to my family. He paused, watching Okiku closely, savoring every moan that escaped her lips. I do like you, Okiku. I have said so many times. You are a good girl and very beautiful. Yes, very beautiful. Okiku shuddered. Listen, Okiku, Aoyama said softly. It can all be forgotten. Just accept me as I ask. Accept? Okiku looked bewildered. Yes, give yourself to me. Is it not a small thing? He took her hand. And your mistake will be forgotten. Okiku stared at his hand on hers. I should talk to the other maids, she stammered. Perhaps they have seen it. His grasp tightened. No one else touches them. The mistress of the house, she might know. Her voice rose with panic. You should decide, Okiku. No one else here likes you as I do. They will not be so generous. Come. No, she shrieked. No, Aoyama repeated. His voice was ice. Okiku shrunk back. You would rather die than have me. She froze. His hand on hers was white with the strain of his hold. So be it. He struck Okiku and carried her limp body to the old well in the yard, throwing her over. Call for me if you change your mind, he said scornfully. Otherwise, you can die in the dark. For a while, he half hoped to hear Okiku call his name. But hours passed and no sound came from the pit. Aoyama fumed with indignity at Okiku's rebuke. A day passed, then 2, then 3. Aoyama's heart grew cold as he imagined the now cold body of Okiku. It was her choice, he muttered when his eyes fell on the old well. Her choice over me. His humiliation kept his anger hot. A week passed. As night fell, the air seemed chillier than usual. Aoyama shivered slightly, pulled his rope tighter, and instructed the servants to rekindle the embers. When he retired for the day, exhaustion filled him and he snuggled under the cover in expectation for a good night's sleep. 1. A soft voice murmured. Aoyama blinked sleepily. 2. The voice seemed familiar, but he could not quite place it. 3. It sounded like Okiku? It can't be. Aoyama sat up abruptly. 4. He ran out to the yard. 5. 6. There was a strange mist by the old well, almost like a shadow. 7. Okiku? 8. But how you... The shadow seemed to turn to him. It was Okiku, but it wasn't. 9. The shadow that was and wasn't Okiku let out a scream. It was a horrible sound, high and loud, and seemed to carry all the anguish and anger of the world. Aoyama clutched his chest at the sound, as if to hold himself from falling to the ground. The shadow seemed to suck in all the air from around it, as close to a deep breath as the ghost can. For Aoyama had no doubt that this was the spirit of Okiku. 1. Her voice trembled again. 2. Aoyama tried to step back, but his feet would not move. 3. He watched with horrified fascination as the shadow grew thicker. 4. 5. Dread filled him. 6. That if he heard that scream again. 7. He will surely die. 8. Why could he not move? 9. Finally, his feet moved and he stumbled back to the house. The scream filled the air and his ears as he ran. Breathing heavily, he closed the sliding door, but could already hear it start again. 1. All through the night, the ghost of Okiku continued to count the precious plates, letting out a blood-curdling scream every time she reached the missing plate. Aoyama trembled and quaked. No matter how he tried to block it, the voice continued to come through. He came to fear the silence most of all. That moment of respite after the horrible scream when he was bound to hope it would stop. But it never did. Again and again came a feeble one. And Aoyama choked on it, knowing that the horrifying scream would fill his ears again, knowing there is nothing he can do to escape. When morning came, the servants found him cowering in the corner of his room, his hands held tightly on his ears, his eyes wide. He refused to explain his behavior to anyone who asked, saying only that he could not sleep that night and was exhausted. That evening he retired early, but as soon as sleep took him, he heard it again. 1. Another night without sleep left Aoyama trembling to his core. This time, when his wife asked him about his state, he stammered, "Okiku, it was Okiku." "Okiku?" his wife asked doubtfully. "The maid that ran away? What do you mean?" Aoyama seemed to gather himself and let out a quivering laugh. "I was joking, of course. Never you mind." No one else seemed to hear Okiku's count or her terrifying screams, but they did hear the screams of Aoyama that ripped through the night. By the sixth night, he could no longer hold back, could no longer care. He begged Okiku to stop, exchanging apologies with profanities. By morning, everyone in the house knew of Okiku's fate, but there was little point in alerting the law, for Aoyama seemed to have screamed his life away. His feeble body lay on his mattress, wide eyes staring at nothing. His trembling lips mumbled incoherent words. Another day, and he was gone. "Okiku got her justice on her own," the servant whispered, and Aoyama's wife found no reason to silence them.